Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. How are you? Hello, hello. Good to see everybody this morning. Hope you're doing great. Just to grab my coffee over here. It is a good day. Good morning. On this, the 20th day. Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How is everybody this morning? You are finding yourself well. There's goodness in your day. Hello. Hey, Donna, good morning to you. Good morning, friends. How are you? Just looking at... Hello, hello. Hey, gang. Hey, Donna, good morning. Karen, good morning to you. Doing okay. That's good to hear. Vicky, good morning. Everybody, it was a great fundraiser last night. It sure was. So, had a great time here. So, it was, we had 62 folks came out to support the mission in the Dominican. Raised a bunch of money. We're still tallying that up. It's a great time was had for everybody. So appreciative of Cynthia and Alex and Vicki for all her work and everybody's work. Shelby, everybody who contributed. So much work and such a great night. Deb and just everyone. So, yeah, it's a good time. All right, friends, let's get going this morning. It is the 20th day of November at this 11:11, and I'm glad you're with us. Glad you're a part of the journey. I hope that this day finds you well. There's a great series. I'm usually kind of ambivalent about Netflix series. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. But right now there's one called Death by Lightning, which is about the assassination of President Garfield. And Garfield was an amazing guy, and he was really, in many ways, a great, just a great political figure, just a good guy, and he had incredible talents for so many different things. And this story that they lay out over I think it's 4 episodes of his coming to the presidency and kind of how that all happens and his efforts to reform the government that had just become basically a government of corruption under Grant, and he runs against his old boss, General Grant, and so. But he was truly a man of deep faith, and so he was a lay preacher, and he was also he actually was a principal of his college, of denominational college. So he was a man of incredible faith. He was elected president in 1880, kind of through this, almost as everybody's second choice in a way, when that could sort of things. And after 6 months in office, he was shot. And now this great story is told really, really brilliantly, I think, to this Netflix series. And I won't. Even though you know how it ends, it's still well worth the watching. But he's shot in the back with this revolver. It's this big heavy slug that's kind of this big heavy underpowered slug is kind of what this thing and it is, and so it penetrates, but it never leaves the body. It doesn't exit. So he has this bullet inside of him. And so the doctors all kind of gather around, and the initial team doesn't have, they don't have any idea around sanitation, even though the idea of germ theory and sanitation and all that sort of thing was still was very much emerging and in the zeitgeist. This kind of old doctor kind of refused to think that. And what he really refused to do was to let go of searching for the bullet in the body, because they kept looking for the bullet in the body. And so that he tried with his finger immediately upon the wound, and he couldn't get the bullet out. He tried the silver tipped probe that he had used in the war. He couldn't get the bullet out. And months and months and months later, that he would keep trying and make new incisions, and he'd think, I think I found where the bullet is now, and he would make another incision and try and go get the bullet out, and he couldn't get it out. The president lived for 4 months, or for nearly 3 months, rather. For nearly 3 months he lived, and but with all of the probing, all of the lack of sanitation, and all of the incisions, it simply could not survive it, and he would die, not from the wound and not from the bullet, because the bullet never hit anything important, and the wound never healed, but he died from infection, from the constant probing after the bullet. And it's Senator Mark Hatfield that made this comparison, and I'm indebted for it. He says this is what it is for we who kind of dwell too long on what is wrong with the world or what is wrong with ourselves, and simply refuse to forgive and give it over to God. That we're always probing after the bullet. This is really our command and our invitation to forgiveness. That when we can't let go of the wound, when we can't stop probing for the bullet, what we're doing often is looking for the thing, is doing, every time we go looking for it, we're doing a little more damage to our spiritual body. We're doing a little more damage. We're placing a little more infection into the body of Christ that we are meant to be and embody. And so I wanted to talk about forgiveness today, just because I was so struck with this analogy, because one, I loved the Garfield story and the way this was portrayed in this story called Death by Lightning. You know, that was when Garfield was asked about assassination, he said, "Oh, you have as much a chance as being killed by lightning as you do by an assassin." And so that became the head of the story. But there's these three things that come up when Jesus speaks of forgiveness that I want to offer you today, because there are so many different insults in the world these days. There's so many different bullets, I think, that are trying to get lodged into our psychic and into our body. Some of them we may have even placed there ourselves. It's our own wounds, it's our own things that we can't forgive or we can't let go of, or there's our own dwelling just too long on looking for the bullet that's in there, rather than simply letting go and letting God's healing process take over. And so the first one is, and none of them are particularly gentle, so we'll just go after it. We only got 11 minutes. So the first one is this notion that forgiveness should be unlimited. And nobody likes that, right? Nobody likes that idea that we should forgive, that our capacity to forgive should be unlimited. There should not be a cap on it. Jesus says when he's asked the question, how many times should we forgive somebody? He says, should we forgive somebody 7 times? He says, no, 70 times 7, or 70 times 70, depending on what translation you like, which is really this way of saying a complete time on top of a complete time on top of a complete time. So 7 is the word, it's the 7 days of creation. It is the meaning of completeness. So we should do it completely, then we should do it completely again, and then we should do it completely 10 more times. That's how many times we should forgive. And what that also tells us is that forgiveness is a process. We think somehow we're supposed to take these bullets that end up being lodged, these rocks that end up being in our shoe, that these things that seem to end up and continue to gall us, and that our desire to keep going in there and fishing around for it, to go in there and I'll just make one more incision. I'll just ruminate on this one more thing. I'll just seek my vengeance for this one more moment. I'll just get this. I'll just make sure this is right. I'll just see if we can have this conversation about this thing, so that we can make sure that they know how I felt, or whatever story we're telling ourselves. Forgiveness is unlimited, and it is an unlimited process. We're going to do it again and again and again. We're gonna have something that we're gonna have an insult to ourselves. We're gonna have an insult to ourselves. We're gonna have a bullet that's lodged in us, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna forgive it. We're gonna try to forgive. And then you know what's going to happen? It's going to come up again. We're going to become aware of there may be this bullet lodged in us that is still there. There may be this thing we're still contending with, and then we're going to attempt to forgive again. It's not a bug. It's not a failure for us when we find malice in our heart. When we find malice in our heart against another person, or we can even find malice in our heart against ourselves. When we want to destroy something out there, or we want to destroy something in here, when we say, okay, I'm going to forgive this thing, I'm going to forgive this person, I'm going to forgive this event, I'm going to forgive myself. When we say that, and then we encounter it again, we feel like, oh, well, I just screwed up. Or we encounter it even more violently, maybe when we do it, when we begin, oh, I've screwed up. No. That's a feature, not a bug. That we are many ways spiritually ascending a spiral staircase, and we will find ourselves on the same point. We will return to that same wound again and again and again, and yet again and again and again we'll have to let go of it. Again and again and again we'll have to make the decision to not make another probing attempt into the body to try and take that thing out, to get rid of it. We'll try again not to infect ourselves with malice or with resentment. We'll have to not probe around in there looking to try and get that initial insult out. And rather than dwelling too long on the thing, to simply refuse and to release it to God and to let it go. The second thing is that forgiveness is a condition of receiving and giving love. Matthew 6 says it this way: if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Now you can think about that saying like, oh, well, isn't God mean because I can't get my act together, then God won't love me. That's not what that's saying. What it's saying is that there's a spiritual reality that if we harbor resentment, if we harbor this wound, if we continue to poke and penetrate our own spiritual body, looking to remove this insult and remove the bullet, what we will find is that as long as we're harboring that pain in our body, we can't know health. We can't know the capacity to love and to be loved. That insult, that wound will keep poisoning every other avenue and every other relationship in our life, and it will come like a sepsis in a body, like an infection in the body. It will go from one organ to another organ. It will go from being a little localized thing that every time the probe goes in looking for the body, every time we try and root that thing out, we try to get our justice so that it is removed, we'll get weaker and weaker, and it will spread to things. This isn't about God not loving us through forgiveness. It's about God saying, I love you so much that please stop poking at it. Please stop picking at it. It is about giving us it is about telling us how the spiritual reality of life works, is that that we will wall ourselves off and we will poison ourselves and our body if we don't step in to simply giving it over to God, and rather to stop rooting around in our psyche and our being. Lastly, this notion that forgiveness is a regular practice. It's something that we have to do all the time, every day. It's not a like, oh, that happened. Oh, I got shot that one time and now forgiveness. It is a constant, it would have been a constant act for that doctor. Dr. Bliss, by the way, was his name. It would have been a constant act for him not to go in and try and look for that bullet that was lodged in President Garfield. It was, in fact, it became kind of an obsession of his to go in and look for that bullet. Oh, I think I know where it is now. Oh, I think I know where it is now. This constant need to have it removed was this constant insult, and it would have been, had he prevented himself from doing that, it would have been a constant practice not to enter into that, not to poke him one more time, not to go looking for the bullet in the body one more time, but to actually refrain from that. That in fact the refraining from that is a constant discipline of forgiveness. That it is as important what we don't do as what it is we end up doing. When we talk about, there's an old saw with couples and married couples that says, don't go to bed angry, right? And the reason you don't go to bed angry is because you don't let things, is that you don't let things fester, you don't let things work on, you don't let things go from resentment, is you figure out how to forgive things as a daily and regular practice. Because if you go to bed angry, you're going to continue to work on you're going to move from an initial insult to something that you'll have to start to go looking for and poke at, and will begin to fester. And that this desire for us to be able to stay in a state where our hands are open and we can receive God's grace, where we can receive the goodness of the world, rather than see nothing but sourness and bitterness and the next person that's trying to get us, the next person that's going to shoot us, the next bullet that's going to get lodged within us because we're so busy looking for one that was there already. But the natural state of our being, is that the body will heal and restore itself. With all of our modern medicine, we even forget this. But it's not just true of the physical body, but it's true of our spiritual body too. Our natural state is to be healed and to be whole and to be well. And left to its own devices, God will in fact bring us to those things. That doesn't mean we the body doesn't get corrupted and die. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that are overwhelm us, but that often interventions that are good are only interventions that actually support the body's natural healing process. It is the body that does the healing, not the intervention. There's no intervention that has ever actually healed two cells back, the knit bodies back together again. What interventions do is create a condition for the natural process of the body. And so too it is with our spiritual selves. That if we get so obsessed with trying to dig out the bullet, we end up with trying to dig out the sin, with trying to dig out trying to not be able to simply let go and let the natural state of our being take over. And so the great invitation as forgiveness as a regular practice is to stay in this state where we can receive God's love, and we can receive other people's love, and we can receive regard for even ourselves. It's always going to be, when the confrontation with this is always going to be hard. The confrontation with the fact that we have the wound, we carry the bullet within us, is always going to be difficult. But friends, don't go rooting around in there. Don't get obsessive about your pain, about the things that would break you, about the things that have been done to you or the things that you have done. They are all in the past. and they are all behind us. And that the grace of God, who loves us and who wants nothing more to invite us to his house and to sit with us at table, that God who came into the world to be as we are, so that he would know our very wounds. He would know what they are. He would know what they feel like, and give us the tools and the ways and the strength to overcome them, because he too has overcome them. That all of that will give us the capacity to forgive just one more time, to set the conditions for giving and receiving love in our life, and to make this a regular practice of our days. And truly, as we get ready for next week, the truly and greatest antidote of all of this is to enter the practice of Thanksgiving. But we'll talk about more of that next week as we come into another 11:11. Peace and grace to you all, and I hope you'll join us for worship on Sunday, and with the last of our Victory in Jesus series. Peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.